This is breaking news.
It is 10 o'clock. We are following breaking news, now learning that Oregon is leading a coalition of more than 20 other states to bring yet another lawsuit against the Trump administration.
Yeah, this time they're taking on the president's newest tariffs, the ones that he put into place when the Supreme Court struck down another round of tariffs. Fox 12's Bonnie Silkman joins us now live in the newsroom with the details on this. We've just learned this in the last half hour. So, Bonnie, what can you tell us?
Exactly, Joe. All of this information just coming into the newsroom this morning. But as you mentioned, Oregon is now joining 23 other states in filing this new lawsuit against the Trump administration, calling his latest round of new tariffs illegal and unconstitutional. Now, in this new lawsuit, this group of states are also demanding refunds for businesses hurt by his earlier trade policies that were struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, this new lawsuit we're just finding about this morning says that the president's newest tariffs overstep the president's authority and ignore rules meant to protect American businesses. Now, as I mentioned, this, of course, comes after the Supreme Court recently struck down his previous global tariffs, ruling that he exceeded his authority. Now, within hours after that decision came down from the U.S. Supreme Court, the president signed a new executive order under a different law, aiming for a 10% worldwide tariff with plans to raise it up to 15%. So that's exactly what this new lawsuit is challenging, calling it illegal and unconstitutional. So meanwhile, federal judges have now ordered the government to start paying more than $130 billion in refunds to U.S. companies. So, of course, Oregon is not new to this fight. Actually, the state filed more than 50 lawsuits against the Trump administration in 2025. Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield said in today's press release, quote, "The focus right now should be on paying back people, not doubling down on illegal tariffs." He adds that experts estimate these tariffs could raise the cost of living for the average family in Oregon by more than $1,200 a year. So, of course, this latest lawsuit just highlights the ongoing tensions between states and the former president's trade policies and the current policies. This could have wide-reaching impacts, on Americans and on businesses. So, again, we're just learning about yet another lawsuit that Oregon is leading along with those 23 other states. We'll keep you updated on this developing story. For now, reporting in the newsroom, Bonnie Silkman. Good day, Oregon.
Well, all right, Bonnie, thank you.